Hello, Mrs McTaggart here, and in this video we're going to look at factorising basic trinomials. Now I say basic trinomials because there are tricky trinomials and there are basic ones. And there are so many different methods for teaching how to do the tricky ones. But let's go with the basic ones first of all. So think of this word trinomial. That wee bit at the front, tri, is a very important meaning to this one. Tri, all the words you can think of with tri, I bet you have a connection to three. Triangles, trigonometry, to do with triangles, tricycle, tripod, they all mean three. That is still apparent here. So when you, let's go back to very basics for a second and expand a pair of brackets, such as a plus 2, a plus 5. When you expand that out, you get a squared plus 5a plus 2a plus 10. Yeah? And when you tidy that up, you get a squared plus 7a plus 10. How many things have I got there? I've got 1, 2, 3. This is called a trinomial. It's also called a quadratic, but we'll bench that for later, alright? It's called a trinomial because it's got three terms. It's got a squared letter, and a number. And this is what most pairs of brackets look like when you multiply them out, unless it was one with a difference of two squares, where you had a matching brackets, one a plus, one a minus. Now, so what we're asking you to do here is we're asking you, let's move all this, we're asking you to take this original form of a squared plus 7a plus 10, and we're asking you to put it back into the two brackets. Now, a bit like when I teach how to do difference of two squares, I think, right, where does a squared come from? That comes from a times a. And with a difference of two squares, I would then ask you to say, well, where does the number bit come from? Same thing here. Where does 10 come from? Well, 10 doesn't square root like you did in difference of two squares, but 10 can come from multiplying a couple of different numbers together. I can do 1 times 10. And I can do 2 times 5. And the question is trying to get the numbers right to multiply, trying to get the numbers right that this multiplies back out to a squared plus 7a plus 10. Now, if I used 1 and 10, that would give me a 1a and a 10a. It's not going to give me 7a in the middle. So there must be another condition on my pair of numbers. They have to multiply to 10, but they also have to add up to give me 7a. So which pair of numbers adds to give me 7? Does a 2 and a 5 add to give 7? Of course it does, right? So that means in the brackets I've got a 2 and a 5. Now I'm going to stop, bench it for a second and talk about signs. This sign here is probably one of the things I tell my pupils to look at straight away. Back in first year we teach you that when you multiply numbers, a positive times a positive always gives you a positive answer. We then teach you that a negative times a negative also always gives you a positive answer. So if this is a plus at the end of my trinomial, it means that the signs in my brackets match. They're either plus plus or minus minus. Now everything in my question is positive, and to get positive 7, that's just plus 2 plus 5. And then the other wee thing is if it's a plus times a minus, then that's going to give you a negative number. So if the end term is negative, you're looking to have one of each sign. Now we knew the answer was a plus 2, a plus 5 because we had already started with that at the beginning. So can you see how it's just the reverse process? I'm just trying to get you to see what wee trick we were using there. So let's get this down in a kind of note form. So this is what I get pupils to write down, and I say a trinomial is of the form ax squared plus bx plus c. So that is the general kind of layout. A squared term, an x term, and a number at the end. A, B, C can stand for numbers. In all of our ones just now, the a value is just 1, so there's no number in front of the y squared. It's the secret hidden number 1. So here is my very first example. We are going to factorise y squared plus 4y plus 3. So I always start with my open brackets before I do anything else. We're remembering, we know that y squared comes from y and y, so I start with that. Then I look at the 3. I'm thinking, right, what numbers multiply to give me 3 for my end terms? Now, in this case, it's really nice. There's no options. 3 is a prime number, so it can only be a 3 and a 1. And 3 and 1, when you add them, get 4. So remember, you're looking for things that multiply to the end term, but they add to give you the middle term. So 3 times 1 is 3, 3 add 1 is 4. And remember what I said about this being a little plus sign? Both my signs match. To get positive 4, it's plus 3 plus 1. Now, with all factorising, you can check your answer. You can multiply it back out and check you've got the right thing. So just to a quick check, that would give you y squared plus y plus 3y plus 3. The middle bit would give you 4y. Bob's your uncle, I've got the right answer. That can be done at the side or mentally in your head. It's not necessary, but I see if you're in an exam, you've got a couple of minutes, please multiply it out. This for some people is the easiest 2 marks you can get. Okay, and all I've got written here is that little thing there again about the trick. If that end term is a plus, you've got matching signs. If the end thing is a negative, you've got one of each sign. Right, I'm going to fire through loads of examples here. So this is really just a problem solving game, and quite often I'll start with first years and I'll give them as a question, find me 2 numbers that multiply to 3 but add to 4, and they don't realise what they're doing. I'm just leading them into factoring. So have a look. So it can be any old letter. It's not always X, it's not always Y, it can be anything. So I like to change it up a wee bit. So this one has got an H squared. So my open brackets are going to be H and H. Remember, we start with a 14. We're looking for numbers that multiply to 14 but add to 15. So you've got a couple of options for 14. You've got 14 and 1. I'm just going to write them down here. And you've got 2 and 7. You're looking for the combination that also add to 15. So it's got to be the 14 and the 1 combination. Everything is positive, so I know my signs match. So H plus 14, H plus 1. And remember, if you had a different answer to me, if you're sitting doing this or you're doing it in class and your teacher has it one way, but you've written, for example, that, they are the exact same thing. The brackets are just back to front. To mine, doesn't mean they're wrong, but remember 3 times 4 is the same as 4 times 3, so you write them whichever way you prefer. Okay? Right, let's look at my second one. So my y squared minus 6y plus 8. So open brackets. Y squared comes from y times y. We're looking for numbers that multiply to 8 and add this time to negative 6. Now I've got a plus 8 there. So because it's a plus 8, I know that my signs match. Numbers that multiply to 8 could be 8 and 1, but there's no way of getting 6 from 8 and 1. 2 and 4, wait a minute, 2 and 4 can make 6. So 2 and 4 multiply to 8, but to get minus 6, that's going to have to be negative 2, negative 4. So remember, the plus at the end means you've got matching signs. That negative in the middle means they're both negative numbers. And then we're going to look at these ones. So notice my signs now are both minuses at the end. So this bit here is a minus 24 and a minus 21. So open brackets, G and G to give you the G squared. We're looking for numbers that multiply to 24 and add to give minus 10. Now technically they're not adding to minus 10 because we know 1 is a plus, 1 is a minus. They're secretly subtracting. So I'm going to think of all numbers that give me 1 to give me 24. 1 and 24, I can't make 10 from those two numbers. 2 and 12, I can make 10 from them. There's also 6 and 4. I can make 10 from 6 and 4. But I'm going to explain why it's not 6 and 4 in a wee second. 2 and 10 definitely work because I know I've got one of each sign. So 2 and 12. To make the 10, just double check your signs and think, is it 2 take away 12 or is it 12 take away 2? Well, the latter would give me positive 10, but I've got negative 10. So that means the negative went with my 12 and the plus went with the 2. And a quick check, just look at what you've written there. You've written plus 2 minus 12. That gives you minus 10. So I've just done a quick check there to myself mentally. So a wee second ago, you might have remembered I said that 6 and 4 could also give me 10. To get 10 using 6 and 4, it would have to be a minus 6 and a minus 4. But that wouldn't work to give me negative 24 because we already decided at the beginning it's going to be a plus and a minus. So 6 and 4, although at first glance think you make 10, they're not working in this scenario. And there are a couple of questions like that where if you're not 100% sure on what your signs are going to be, you might get tricked out and write the wrong thing. Right, let's look at number 5. So 2 brackets, Z and Z. We're looking for numbers that multiply to negative 21 and add to minus 4. So numbers that times to 21, there's not many. There's a 3 and a 7 or a 21 and a 1. 3 and 7 will definitely give me a minus 4 somehow. But is it 3 minus 7? Or is it 7 minus 3? Which one of those gives you negative 4? You're right, it's 3 negative 7. Because it's negative, the takeaway has to go with a bigger number. So it's plus 3, take away 7. And I'm going to do 2 more with you. X squared. So that gives me x and x in the brackets. Numbers that multiply to 6 and add to x. Now wait a minute, what does x stand for? What number's sneakily written there? Remember, that's a 1. That throws a lot of my pupils sometimes. So we're looking for numbers that multiply to minus 6 and add to 1. Now, minus 6 means I've got a plus and a minus here. 6 and 1 will not work. 2 and 3 will. I can make a 1 from a 2 and a 3. 2 take away 3, that would be negative. I want positive, so it must be positive 3 take away 2. And then this last one here comes from a P and a P. Numbers that multiply to 16 and add to 8. Well, I've got 16 and 1. I've got 2 and 8. None of them seem to work. None of them will make an 8. Don't forget, 16 is a square number, so it could be 4 and 4. Everything's positive here, so it's plus 4, plus 4. So remember, these are what I've called basic trinomials. Now, there are other methods out there. This might not be the way your teacher does, okay? For me, this is just the most simplest way. Where it comes more difficult is I start to put a number in front of that 2p squared. So you'll start solving ones like 2p squared plus 5p, perhaps minus 3 or something like that. But they are not as simple. You can't get straight to the answer in one little go. So I have several videos on that method. It's worth finding out what your method's called if you're going to try and use one of my videos to teach yourself the next bit. Okay, so there's box method, there's the cross method, there's a common factor method. There are others out there that I've not even ever taught yet. Okay, but thanks for watching. Bye bye.